arms towards the sun. You feel the warmth of the rays, and then you know you're alive, and you don't have to be afraid of anything.
Welcome to the Bassline. Dr. Alim Muhammad is a medical freedom all-star and one of the right docs of history. He appeared on the Bassline episode 59, where he took us into new territories and enlightened us across an array of topics. It is my distinguished honor to welcome back to the Bassline Dr. Alim Muhammad. How are you this afternoon, Dr. Muhammad?
I'm fine, Brother Jeremiah. I hope you are too, and I hope all of the listening audience is in the best of health, although we know realistically that's probably not the case.
Right. Yeah, it's always good to be realistic, I believe, even if it's not the most pleasant reality. Better to know the truth, I would say.
Yes.
What do they say? Uncomfortable truths over pleasant lies, pleasant little lies. But I would like to say, first of all, of course, Dr. Muhammad was a guest on this program not very long ago, and I always intended to have him on as a guest again for certain, but I wanted to get him on a little bit sooner than the average sort of reappearance on the show, because we had left out perhaps the most important question on the list of questions I presented to Dr. Muhammad in the first place to sort of facilitate our discussion. We sort of left off on a very important question. So I wanted to get him right back here to address that particular question, which I'm going to share with you in a moment. I just want to announce that I am a new staff writer. I don't know if I'm a staff writer or a contributing writer or how you would define me or describe me, but I'm writing now for a journal called Propaganda in Focus. And I wrote an article called Censorship du Jour, which I would love for you guys to check out. It's on my Substack. It's also on Propaganda in Focus. So please like it on my Substack and then go to the Propaganda in Focus page and just look at the article there so it could record the view that you went to check it out, because it's a big opportunity for me. My name is side by side with some pretty well-established writers. So this is quite a milestone for me to contribute to such a high-quality journal, and it's great to work with real editors as well. It's incredible. So please keep an eye out for that article. I guess you could just search it out on Google. I doubt there's anything else that will come up when you type Censorship du Jour. And if that doesn't lead you directly to the article, you can add Propaganda in Focus is the name of the journal. But having mentioned that, of course, you can also support this program by going to my website, jeremiahhosea.com. Buy the theme song of this show for $1. I'd greatly appreciate it. Or you can buy a chess lesson for you or a loved one. My other website is remotelearningchess.com. Just so you guys know, so you can visualize this a little bit, when I leave the station here at the Progressive Radio Network, I dash uptown to the Washington Heights area, and I teach chess in a Catholic school in Washington Heights. So I teach chess every Friday right after this show. So let's get into this conversation. The question where we left off, and I'm very curious to hear Dr. Muhammad's explanation, description of the proper role. What in a better world would be a good patient-doctor relationship? What should we expect from our healthcare providers? And perhaps what should they expect from us? What does the patient-doctor relationship consist of in a better, wiser world, Dr. Muhammad?
Well, that's a huge question.
Indeed.
It's a very intriguing question. It's a very important question. And since you posed it, I've thought about it in a lot of different ways. And we would probably exhaust the entire program to give a complete answer.
Totally.
But the role of a physician, the role of a doctor in society, in the community, in my opinion, is to protect the life of the community. And maybe I should put an S behind the word community, because it's communities.
Right.
Because the doctor should be the guardian of the life of the community of cells of which your body is composed, 76 trillion cells. So the life that you are is the life of the cells of which you are composed. So you are a community of cells. But then in your question, the role of the doctor in society, well, what is a society except a community of cells? Cells, celves. And all of those cells, all of those individual cells themselves, I'm playing with sonic resonance here.
Yeah.
All of those individual cells themselves are composed of cells. So the role of the doctor is to take care of both communities, the microscopic community of cells that compose the human body, but also take responsibility for preserving and protecting the health of the larger community of cells, of individual people who compose a society. So in every dimension of existence, the doctor has to be vigilant, on guard against any threat to the life of any cell in the body, or any threat against the lives of any of the cells that are a part of society. So it's a huge role, it's a huge responsibility. But in fact, it is a sacred responsibility because, in fact, the proper role of the doctor is to guarantee the right to life that was given by God himself. So the doctor cannot be in proper relationship to the community of cells or the community of cells unless the doctor himself is in proper relationship to the God who is the creator of life, and under the guidance and influence of that God of life, then perhaps the doctor can become a healer instead of a dealer. I think most doctors nowadays, they're not healers. They don't heal anybody. As a matter of fact, they consider the word cure to be a four-lettered word not to be used.
Wow.
They manage illness and make money from the management of illness. So they're not healers, they're dealers. They're dealers in drugs. Even though the basis of life was never a drug, whoever thought that the foundation of our life was a drug or a vaccine? Right. No, the foundation of our physical life is nutrition, the food that we eat. The simple answer to the question, where did your body come from? It didn't come from a vial of drugs. Your body came from the food that you ate. And you are what you ate. If you ate good yesterday, then your body is good today.
Yeah.
And so the physician, is the guide for people in areas of nutrition, because nutrition is the foundation of life. And without proper nutrition, there's no possibility of health. There's no possibility of homeostasis. There's no possibility. And the final point I'll make here is the role of the doctor ultimately is to help people achieve their full human potential as human beings in the image and likeness of God. So in other words, what was God's intention when he created me? What was God's intention for me when he created me? This is what every person has to ask. What was in God's mind for me in bestowing upon me this wonderful gift of life? What was I supposed to do with this life? But so many times, what do we hear? People say, well, the spirit was willing, and I was willing to accept my mission in life, but the flesh was so weak. So therefore, the role of the doctor is to strengthen the flesh when the flesh needs to be strengthened. So that and you do that for the sake of the spirit, not for the sake of a dollar, not for the sake of a reputation, not for the sake of anything but that which is of ultimate importance, which is the Spirit of God, the living God that is in each and every one of us, that dwells within each and every one of the 76 trillion cells that make us up. And, of course, that extends into the larger community of human beings and human society. So that's a summary answer to your question.
Yeah, I think that's an outstanding answer. I love those remarks, and I think there's a lot that we can extract from that. And I would love to, well, I shouldn't say love to because it's a rather unpleasant topic, but it's an important topic, which is I would like to hear from you any up-to-date points of view you may hold or any new information you may have gathered in terms of the destruction that continues to unfold as a result of the mass inoculation of the global public with mRNA, quote-unquote, vaccines. I've seen so many strange cases, just too many to start randomly stating anecdotal examples of what I'm talking about, but a lot of injury, young people having new medical problems, people with heart issues, cancers popping up, people getting sick all of the time, died suddenly cases where folks don't appear to be sick at all, but they either just keel over and die or don't wake up in the morning. My question is, can you give us an update in terms of your perspective as far as what you've witnessed, what you've researched in terms of the harm that is unfolding right before our eyes and what we could expect really in the next decade or so?
Okay, another very, very important question. And as a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he instructed us to study history, which is best qualified to reward our research. So if we go into the history of this thing, we can go as far back as we want, but let's start with 1953 with the publication of a book by Bertrand Russell, one of the most evil individuals who ever lived.
Wow.
And the book was entitled The Impact of Science on Society. This is 1953. And to summarize the point of the book, he said, through a combination of food, injections, injunctions, we will create a new species of subhumans to serve the elite masters of the human race. Wow. And so that's what's been in effect since 1953. And of course, that's the beginning of the so-called vaccine paradigm. Now, of course, I noticed in your phrasing of the question, you did what many people do nowadays who are wise to what's taking place. You said vaccine, quote unquote,
right?
Because you know it's not a vaccine.
Right.
Well, then, if it's not a vaccine, then what is it? It's not good enough to say vaccine, quote unquote. No, what is it?
Right.
Well, what it actually is what Bertrand Russell said it was going to be. Gene therapy. Now, of course, the CEO of Johnson & Johnson in 2020 at a press conference, he said openly to the mainstream media and to everybody that was listening. He said, well, if we had called it a gene therapy, which is what it is, nobody would have taken it. And so we called it a vaccine because people are used to taking vaccines, and they think vaccines are harmless. And so it was just a marketing ploy to actually put into motion a massive gene therapy campaign. See, it's not a vaccine campaign. It's a gene therapy campaign. It's a gene modification campaign. In the language of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, this is just a modern-day Yaqub grafting the human race into something that they, again, modern technology, they call it the transhumanist agenda.
Yeah.
So that's what we're dealing with. Now, along with that, look, the history of closer to home, 2017, the publication of the Deagle report. Deagle was the defense contractor who did assessments, analyses of economies and populations and demographics, all kinds of things for every country in the entire world. According to Deagle's prediction in 2017, the American population was 330-some million people, but Deagle predicted that by 2025, this year, by 2025, Deagle said the American population would be reduced down to 69 million, from 300-plus million down to 69 million. So now what did Deagle know that you don't know? And so when you're being distracted by these lies, calling gene therapy vaccination when it's actually something else, it's a part of a depopulation agenda. So you mentioned the messenger RNA, the lipid nanoparticles, the nanobots. There's 3 trillion nanobots in every shot. Okay, so what's going on? A modification of the human genome. This is not DNA contamination. No, it's DNA inoculation. They're putting new fragments of DNA into the human genome to produce a new subspecies of human beings, just like Bertrand Russell said they were going to do. See, a lot of times the problem with us is we don't actually believe them when they tell us what they're getting ready to do. We try to put a good cover on the evil that they have openly pronounced.
Yeah, you know what you remind me of right there, Dr. Muhammad? I'm sure you've seen the footage of, I don't want to say the incorrect location offhand, I think it was Georgetown University, where Dr. Fauci, and again, just a vaccine in quotes, I'd put doctor in quotes if we're referring to Fauci as well, he made that comment that there was going to be a surprise outbreak. He said when he was about to be, I guess, an employee of under the Trump administration. He's worked, of course, under several administrations, supposedly bipartisan. And then before Trump had actually taken the oath of office, but I guess he had just been elected, hadn't taken the oath of office, he made some comments about we will have to face the ongoing challenges of chronic illness, of course. And then he said, and there will be a surprise outbreak, which I found very strange. The particular phrasing that he chose when he said that, I don't know if you saw that remark, but I just found the phrasing of that so strange, because he didn't say something like, well, we always have to be prepared for a surprise outbreak that could happen at any time. He said specifically, and there will be a surprise outbreak.
Yes, I think you're referring to a panel discussion that Anthony Fauci was a part of that was broadcast on C-SPAN. And he was in a panel with a number of other so-called virologists and vaccine experts. And he, as you said, indicated that he thought the public had become apathetic towards influenza and they needed to be surprised with a new outbreak. Now, another member of the panel, I can't remember his full name. His first name was Rick. But he also indicated that this surprise that was going to be pounced on the world population, this new epidemic, this plandemic, really, he said it was going to be beamed, B-E-A-M-E-D. He was going to be beamed around the world. So now here's some homework for people to do who are listening. Go look up on YouTube Luc Montagnier's video called The Message in Water. And he will explain in that video, it's about a 2-hour video, so you got to set the time aside. But he'll explain to you, he won the Nobel Prize, he'll explain to you how a virus epidemic could be jump-started globally all at once through electronic beams.
Wow.
That's how COVID-19 was started. And so, yes, that was the big surprise that Anthony Fauci promised and delivered on.
Right. How creepy. I mean, talk about a real-life Dr. Doom sort of figure, who, of course, was preemptively pardoned by the Biden administration. I'd never heard of that before, a preemptive pardon. That was interesting.
Well, of course, you're talking about criminal activity. So Biden is a criminal, Fauci is a criminal. And the real question is, why are the decent law-abiding people in the country allowing these criminals to roam around at large?
Yeah.
I mean, people do complain. They say the migrants that come across the border, some of them are criminals, and the district attorneys let them out, and they run around and commit more crimes.
Right.
Well, what's the crime of an immigrant rapist compared to what Anthony Fauci and Joe Biden are guilty of?
Yeah.
And everybody knows they're guilty.
Yeah, seriously. Mass
So what's
murder.
wrong with us that we allow criminals among us to run free?
And to rule us, in fact.
Yeah, what's wrong with us? You see, well, I'll tell you what's wrong with us. It's back to Bertrand Russell. You've been drinking fluoridated water, using fluoridated toothpaste since the 1950s. So the Nazis found out in World War II, if you give enough fluoride to people, it makes them apathetic. So in the concentration camps, Those people knew they were being slaughtered, and they just sat there with their eyes wide open and did nothing to protect or defend their own lives.
Mm.
So that's what that's what has happened to the American population. They're fluoridated, and that makes them apathetic. And so even though they know every crime that was committed by Anthony Fauci and the whole crew, they don't do anything about it. They just watch it on television.
Yeah.
And they just talk about it.
Yeah, like another
don't do anything.
Another entertainment spectacle for the masses.
Even their own death is entertainment to them. They'll probably do a selfie as they're dying in the ICU.
You actually
They
remind
want all
me.
their friends to know how they died with dignity.
Yeah,
See,
seriously.
in other words, the general population, for the most part, has been driven insane.
Yeah, you remind
Now,
me.
the role of the doctor is to try to bring a correction by acquainting people, bring them face to face with truth and the reality of what's going on.
Absolutely. You remind me of one of my
A doctor has to
favorite
be a warrior.
quotes.
A doctor can't be a coward. You're facing life and death every day. And there's a God of heaven that's watching over what you do to see whether you actually obey the laws of life and the laws of medicine. The first one, of course, is do no harm. Now, of course, just because you do no harm doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. A doctor has to be willing to hurt you. If I lance a boil, hey, that hurts.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't done any harm.
Mm-hmm.
But if I try to be nice, we'll just pet the boil. We'll let the abscess break. Hey, I'm pretending like I'm not doing any harm by not hurting you.
Right.
So, but again, that's a false interpretation.
Right. No, that's a very good point. And you actually reminded me of one of my favorite quotes. There's an essay by the Situationist International. I think the author was Guy Debord, although I don't know if the individual author was credited in the essay. It's called The Geopolitics of Hibernation. And the quote says, "If this system were to go to the point of bluntly proclaiming that it imposes such an empty and despairing existence that the best solution would be for everyone to go hang themselves, it would still succeed in managing a healthy and profitable business by producing standardized ropes."
Well, you don't know how true what you just said is. I just read a statistic yesterday. Do you know that I think the second or third leading cause of death in Canada is euthanasia?
Yeah, insane.
Where the government has a program. All you have to do is call up a toll-free number and tell the government you're ready to die, and they'll send experts out to kill you.
Yeah. It's so disturbing. I forget the acronym for that program offhand, but
It's called MAID.
MAID, there you go.
Medical Assistance in Dying.
Right, there we go.
Medical
MAID. Oh, you got it made. You're dead. You got it made. Yeah, and it's interesting between that and the mutilation of children in particular, these transgendered surgeries, which of course render you incapable, of course, of reproduction. Between sterilizing vaccines, it seems they have an array of things available to us now to shorten our lives, end our lives, and decrease the chances of us reproducing.
Yes, well, again, see, you have to understand that the mindset, I'm back to your first question again, the mindset of a doctor who's playing a proper role is to be in love with human beings who are in the image and likeness of God. If I love God and I see a human being, a man or a woman who is in the image and likeness of the God that I love, then there's no limit to what I will do in order to preserve and protect that sacred life. Now, of course, everybody doesn't have that viewpoint of human beings. Perhaps the reason why the devil hates human beings so much is because the human is in the image and likeness of God. And every time the devil looks at a human being, he gets angry, he gets mad, because it reminds him of God. And so he becomes the destroyers of the human form. So he mutilates the body.
Right.
He does all kinds of surgeries to deprive people of their body parts. They do knee replacements, hip replacements. We'll take your stomach out. We'll cut your colon out. We'll cut your thyroid gland out. I was a surgeon. I am a surgeon. I know how to cut your gizzard out. I used to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Used to cut bullets out too.
Yeah.
But the point is, you're dealing with a society that is anti-God.
Yeah.
Remember, God was taken out of the society several decades ago. So they don't want to be reminded of God because they are about to make an assault on the image and likeness of God that is the human being walking in the society. So they want to destroy that and replace it with an artificial image in the image and likeness of the God that they worship, which is not the God of righteousness.
Right. Well,
It's
first
a spiritual battle.
Indeed.
But I don't be like Muhammad said, that the war of Armageddon is a battle for the minds of men, but the stakes of the war are the lives of men. So that's what we're experiencing right now.
Right. Very profound. I would like to, first of all, invite you to call if you would like to speak to the outstanding Dr. Alim Muhammad. Now is a great opportunity. He's on live with us. And, of course, the number is 888-874-4888. I have a few more questions here, but I would like you guys to be organized, if you can, and get online so we can have you all queued up when it's time to take calls, which will be momentarily. But before we get to our esteemed callers, I would love to get some pointers from you, Dr. Muhammad, in terms of what can so-called ordinary people do right now in these critical times? There's more and more people just sort of waking up little by little. There are more and more people realizing that vaccination as a practice is not perfectly safe, as we have been told. The term vaccine injury is appearing more often in the lexicon. Any number of other things that we could point to representing a slight arousing of consciousness on the part of the public. What can so-called ordinary people who are not doctors, such as yourself, who don't have a scientific background, but simply want to defend their bodily sovereignty, they don't want to be treated like a pincushion, they don't want to be experimented on, what is the main focus of an intelligent medical freedom activist at this moment who doesn't have letters next to their name but wants to be involved in this struggle for body sovereignty and human dignity? What would you recommend?
Well, as I said earlier, the issue is not whether you're a doctor or not. The issue is whether you're a healer or not. Jesus was a healer. He didn't have a medical degree.
Yeah.
Maybe the root lady down the street, maybe she doesn't have a degree either, but she's a healer. Your grandmother was a healer.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, part of your question was, how can ordinary people, well, who's ordinary?
Right.
I don't know what an ordinary person is. Every person that I ever met is extraordinary.
Right.
And so the first thing that ordinary people need to do is stop thinking of themselves as being ordinary. You're not ordinary. So why don't you act like yourself, which is an extraordinary being in the image and likeness of God?
Right.
In other words, start to realize what your true human potential is. Did God really create you to be a wage slave working for somebody else? Or did he create you for something greater than that? And so if you realize who and what you are, the Quran asks this question. It says, let man consider of what he consists. So since you only are partly a body, there's another part of you that is emotion. There's another part of you that's a mind. There's another part of you that's a spirit. There's another part of you that's an aura. So now what's the health of the body? What's the health of the mind? What's the health of the heart, the emotions? What's the health of the spirit? What's the health of the aura? And since you're a member of a society, what's the health of your family? What's the health of your society? What's the health of your neighbors, your neighborhood, your community, your country, your nation, of humanity in general? You see, so these are all of the dimensions and aspects of health. And so as ordinary people, so-called, we have extraordinary things that we have the potential to do. You were given the God-given potential to do miraculous things with your life besides being a wage slave.
Yeah.
So the question is, how do you get started? Well, how did God get started? He got down on his knees and he planted a garden eastward of Eden. That's how he got started. Because you cannot fulfill your human potential to be in the image and likeness of God and do godly things and build the kingdom of God, eating the food that the devil taught Adam to eat. Wasn't that Adam's fault when he started eating the wrong food?
Yeah.
Well, have you started eating the right food yet? And the only way you can get the right food is to grow it yourself. So why don't you do what God did? They say Jesus disguised himself as a gardener. Why don't you disguise yourself as a gardener and grow some food? Grow food that is good enough for God to eat. And then you will grow into your godly potential, and it won't just be, I'm using only 10% of my potential. Why? Because you're not feeding yourself. And not only feeding your body, how about your mind? How about your emotions? How about your spirit? You see, those are things that no one can stop you from doing. Who can stop you from growing food? Who can stop you from praying? Who can stop you from meditating? Who can stop you from doing all these things that are innately human to do for ordinary people? Even ordinary people can do it. You're stopping yourself. And so stop stopping yourself, unleash yourself on the world, and take responsibility for yourself. And stop relying on experts like you need an expert to know how to live. No, you don't.
Right.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So this powerlessness, you see, is just a symptom of what I mentioned before, the loss of human potential.
Yeah.
So you have people with enormous potential who feel like they don't have any.
Right.
You see, well, they're just miseducated about themselves. And then maybe they are poisoned because of the food that they eat, and they have been vaccinated many times, so maybe some of their potential has been lost. So it would be the role of the physician to recognize that and say, let's see how much of the lost human potential that has already occurred, let's see how much of that can be recovered.
Right. Outstanding answer. So we have a number of calls on the line, actually, and right before we get to our callers, I would love, Dr. Muhammad, if you could just give us whatever necessary information you could give us to keep track of your work. How do people follow you? How do people keep up with you? Because you are quite an impressive disseminator of information as well.
Well, I guess that's why I've been censored off of social media.
Yeah, I'm certain of that.
That's why you can't find me on Facebook. You can't find me on Instagram anymore. I used to be on there.
Yeah.
You can't find me on YouTube because they try to censor me. And who can censor me? So the only place that I'm still hanging out on social media is Telegram.
Yeah.
Dr. Alim on Telegram. Spell the word doctor all the way out. My website is the same, dralim.com. And I can offer some certain services virtually. I look at what my website is, dralim.com, as like a foundation stone for a virtual hospital. We've got a long way to go, but at least that's the first step.
Right.
Now, on a regular basis, I do 2 programs every week. The Your Immunity Project is at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do that on Zoom. And on Wednesday evenings at 9 p.m., we do a program called The 19th Element that is all about geopolitical issues. So Telegram and is where you get daily updates and posts from me. I post something almost every day.
Yeah.
And so check me out on Telegram. Final point on that. In the very near future, I'm leaving the metaverse. This is going to be an exodus this year. It's going to be a migration, a hijra. We're going to move from the metaverse into Sakona. Sakona is a Black-owned media platform. And Sakona will give you everything that Facebook doesn't give you. YouTube, TikTok, all the rest of them. You can find all of that on Sakona. So this is emerging out of Africa. They got a social network. They got a platform that is competitive with anything that Facebook and Microsoft and the rest of them can do. It's called Sakona, Sikona. Go check it out right now. They're up and running right now.
Excellent. And that's
So
Dr. Alim.
That's where you're going to find me, on Sakona.
Right. That's outstanding. Thanks for the heads up on that. And that's Dr. Alim, A-L-I-M, Muhammad.
Yes, and it's pronounced Alim.
Alim, right. Dr. Alim,
Yes.
Right. Dr. Alim Muhammad, spelled A-L-I-M. And let's see, we just had some callers, and then someone just dropped, unfortunately, the person I was about to announce. So, Kiki, if you can get back to us, we're ready to take your call. Sorry if you got another call or something that pulled you away before you had a chance to talk to Dr. Muhammad, but please call back. And in the meantime, Let's go to Neil in Connecticut. How are you, Neil?
Greetings. I salute you.
Greetings.
You and the doctor.
Thank you.
Firstly, so I just wanted to, number one, I wanted to establish the doctors.com. It's dralim.com.
No, yes, dralim.com. And you spell the word doctor all the way out.
Oh, you do? Okay, very good. Okay. So I wanted to remind the listeners that anti-God or anti-Christ doesn't just mean against. As you know, Doctor, it means instead of, in place of, and which is how I define the woke culture, as that new religion in place of God.
Yes.
You know, I'm referring specifically to Baphomet, the worship of Baphomet, etc. But earlier, you mentioned the beam. Was that so-called Dr. Fauci that referred to the beam, to being beamed all over?
No, it was a colleague. His first name was Rick, and I'm trying to remember what his last name was, but it's on C-SPAN. It's on C-SPAN, and you can find it. I'm just blocking on the man's last name, but his name was Rick, and he explained that they were going to jumpstart a global epidemic by beaming it electronically, literally through email, into laboratories all across the world. And that's how the COVID-19 pandemic, through electronics. See, it's all high tech stuff. And so this is how, for the first time in history, you have an epidemic that broke out in the entire world at the same time. That's not how natural epidemics happen.
Right.
It starts at one place and then it spreads.
In this case, it started in Wuhan, so they say, went to northern Italy.
No. The pandemic started everywhere at once.
Right.
It was in Europe. It was in Australia, New Zealand, the United States. It was in Russia. It was in China. It was in just about every part of the world, but for some reason, not so much in Africa.
Yeah. Because they don't have the money to afford the so-called cure in Africa, so they didn't even waste their time.
Well, of course, you have to keep in mind that about 35% of the population of South Africa is HIV positive. See, they were done in decades ago.
Wow.
About 30 or 40% of the population of Zimbabwe is HIV positive. They already have acquired immune deficiency. They didn't need a vaccine to produce vaccine-induced acquired immune deficiency syndrome that they now call long COVID.
Right.
They were already immune deficient from AIDS, which was jump-started, by the way, by the World Health Organization using a so-called smallpox vaccine in Zaire. They did the same thing in Haiti. That's how they jump-started HIV. If you want to read about it, it was on the front page of the London Sunday Times. I believe the date was May the 11th or 12th, 1988, where WHO said, we jump-started HIV in Africa with a smallpox vaccine. So that's the takeaway point of takeaway points. Vaccines are not used to stop epidemics. Vaccines are used to start epidemics.
Actually, you point me to a question I didn't get a chance to ask you, but I want to ask you now because you just mentioned that. We do have a few more callers, and I'm going to get to them in a moment. But I do want to ask you, what is your response, Dr. Muhammad, to this notion that people will suggest when they say, vaccines, someone I literally read on the internet, I think they were probably a shill. There's shills all over the internet. But someone said, vaccines have saved more lives than anything in history. That vaccines have saved millions upon millions of lives. I mean, I've seen people basically say, if we removed vaccination as a practice, civilization would collapse. We'd be just drowning in our own diseases and just dying on at an unbelievable rate. What's your response to people who say that civilization would be ended as we know it if we stopped vaccinating?
That's an interesting question. What civilization are they talking about? You know, when they asked Gandhi what he thought about Western civilization, he said it sounds like a good idea if they would ever try it.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know what civilization they're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, I see very little signs of civilized life taking place on planet Earth these days. But anyhow, probably the person who made that statement is the same person who believes in that the sky is falling. You know, the weather modification. You know, the whole planet's getting ready to burn up. You know, these people are crazy. They also think that the Earth is flat. Yeah. You know, so these are the people that ask these kind of stupid questions. That show they probably don't have 2 brain cells left.
Yeah,
they're probably fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
Now, one other thing, back to the other question you asked, I forgot to mention it. The AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine was specifically designed to destroy people's faith in God.
Wow.
It was designed to do that.
Wow. And is that a similar model to the J&J injection?
Well, I don't know the details of those.
Because I know those were the 2 that weren't mRNA per se, that they used some of the same patents, but it didn't quite get categorized as mRNA. They call it the viral vector.
Don't believe any of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know the results.
Right.
Of whatever was in the shot. Now, this was called for by Klaus Schwab.
Yeah.
He's the head of the World Economic Forum. Now, he called for 2 things that I'm aware of where vaccines are concerned. One was he wanted a vaccine that would kill people's faith in God. Because as somebody already mentioned, you know, there's a new world religion that's being introduced. And so if you believe in the old God, you know, you're no good for the new God. So the vaccine was designed to kill people's faith in God, as we understand God. Mm-hmm. And then the second part that Klaus Schwab demanded of the pharmaceuticals, Anthony Fauci, you have to come up with a vaccine, so-called, a vaccine that can be inhaled. And that was to handle the people that he called the vaccine hesitants. Right. They'll never roll up their sleeves. They'll never agree. But if you can put it in chemtrails, you see, then while they're walking around, you know, doing their daily affairs, they're inhaling the vaccine from the chemtrails that we put in the atmosphere above their heads.
Yeah.
And they're so dumbed down and apathetic, they don't even notice.
Yeah. Yeah, the vaccine that you don't have a choice in receiving whatsoever. They seem to be very attracted to that idea. We also now have, who's next? I'm sorry. We have Kiki from Brooklyn is back. Welcome back, Kiki. Nice to hear from you.
Yes, nice to be speaking to you. Very succinctly, I want to say that I commend you highly on your guests.
Thank you.
Your guests are phenomenal. They speak truth to power and are prepared to deal with the consequences thereof. And I appreciate it. And they don't vacillate and they don't backtrack.
Yes.
Now, moving right along, I have a slight problem. Even though you're an excellent commentator, I don't know what else to call you, but your quote marks, it disturbs me. I mean, I listen to your show fervently and firmly, and you put quote marks when you could do the math, do the research. You don't quote something if the truth is accessible. Either Dr. Fauci is a doctor or he's not. If he's a medical doctor or is he a PhD, which I heard someone say, that was something you could check. It shouldn't be any quote marks. And there's quote marks on vaccinations when they were not vaccinations, as the doctor said, Dr. Muhammad said. They were shots, jabs of poison. That each and everything that's included in them is poisonous outside of people. I'm a person that is getting really fed up with the vacillations of people who the Creator put in a position to expose the truth and help people understand. People are not stupid, but people are lost, and they need guidance. But they also, first and foremost, need truth. That whole word COVID. How dare someone use COVID when there's no such disease as COVID? It stands for Certificate of Vaccination Identification 2019. Look it up. Before they went to the word COVID, over a weekend at that, it was Corona. But Corona was too accessible to people. They were using Lysol. They were using this. They were using other combatants. So they changed it to COVID. But COVID was the card that everybody's supposed to be walking around with since 2019 in order to go have a hamburger. Okay? I mean, these things are definable and they're discernible. And if you're blessed with a position to speak truth to power, you got to speak it regardless of consequences. And you can't quote something. Either it's true or it's not true. Either Dr. Fauci is a doctor, which you ain't, or he's not. Speak truth to power and let Creator handle the results. But I commend you on your guests. I do. And your questions. But sometimes you do vacillate.
I don't agree, but I appreciate your opinion. The quotation marks are specifically to call the validity of the statement that was repeated in question, right? He's referred to as Dr. Fauci publicly. So I didn't invent the man. I didn't put him on your television. He's referred to as Dr. Fauci, and I'm putting it in quotes to say I don't see him functioning as a doctor. But, we can phrase things, redefine things. Every word has usually several different connotations, if not a few different denotations. So in the realm of semantics and how we phrase things, for example, my colleague who invited me to host on the Stop the Shots platform on X, Dr. Ben Marble, he uses the term vaxtards. A lot of people don't like that. They get very offended. I think the forcing of people to take experimental injections is more offensive than any particular word. So I don't mean to be mitigated with my language, but I don't know. I don't want to go too far in trying to justify how I speak. But all I could say is I'm bringing tremendous guests to the table, as you pointed out, on a weekly basis, and I don't want to impose my perspective on the discourse in particular. I'm just a concerned citizen, not a scientist, not a medical expert, just a person who doesn't want to be experimented on, doesn't want to live in a technocracy, and doesn't want my two innocent children subjected to this garbage. So that's why I'm dedicated to this.
Brother, can I put my 2 cents in?
I appreciate it, yes.
Yeah, see, I really appreciate the viewpoint of the caller, but I think she should also keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, yeah, I do speak truth to power, and that's why I'm not on Facebook. That's why I'm not on Instagram. That's why I'm not on any of those social platforms. And if it were not for people like Jeremiah Landis, I wouldn't be anywhere. And so we all play our roles. We all play our roles. He asked me what the role of a doctor is. Well, I could ask him, what do you think the role of a radio commentator is? And I think he's a very good example of what a radio commentator does. He plays I won't say a neutral role, but he facilitates a dialogue among people. And that's a very, very beneficial thing. So I heard you. You said you're an avid fan, so I understand. You love the man, and you're offering your point of view. But I also want to say that if it were not for people like him, I would be completely silenced because I don't compromise what I say.
Well, I appreciate that, Dr. Muhammad. And I'll also add, look, I have grown right before your eyes. When this program or the opportunity to host this program was offered to me, I was not a quote-unquote anti-vaxxer at that time. I've become a full-blown anti-vaxxer, if you want to call me that. I do not believe in injecting people with random garbage, with contaminated cell lines, with adjuvants. And that's based on what I've learned on this program. And I still have a lot more research to do. But
well, of course, when I came out of medical school, I was pro-vax. I mean, I wrote a moratorium. I was the Minister of Health and Human Services for the Nation of Islam. And so it was until 1997 that I wrote a moratorium giving a health warning against vaccines.
Wow.
So all before then, hey, I was pro-vaccine. I did not know. But see, knowledge is vital because once we learn the truth, then we're held responsible for acting on the truth that we now know.
Right. So we do have another call. I'm not sure if we're going to get to all of our calls today. I'm thankful for all of you who have called in, and I always appreciate that. Right now we have Jean from New Hampshire on the line. Are you there, Jean?
I am.
Thanks for calling. How are you today?
I'm good. I just had just a consideration for you. If you ever wanted to consider taking some time on your show to do some processing of the information that is coming out, because I think it would help the audience if you hosted just a day of maybe summing up and questions and things that have come up on previous shows every maybe 6 weeks or so.
Yeah.
If you would consider that would be wonderful. But I wanted to get back to what Dr. Muhammad was saying about this. I loved his little words with the selves, SELVES versus CELLS, that cells, and the biological and the spiritual that he was talking about. And I feel like I just want to put out there that I think we have to open up our whole concept of God to be nature. If we have to kind of open that God word, because God has so many implications and religious overtones. And if we start really seeing God as nature, and if doctors really saw God as nature, but it also is a tremendous onus, a burden to put on the doctor to be also the spiritual leader. The doctor has to keep up with, new herbs, new modalities, new things that they're learning every day in the biological world. It would be really hard for them to also be spiritual leaders too. But yet, it seems like that's what's necessary. So that's why I thought the word God, if we start, and in fact, I have in front of me a book that is wonderful. It's the encyclical letter, Laudato Si, by the Pope. And he has a whole encyclical letter talking about how God is nature. And if we started seeing God as nature, we would work more healthfully and efficiently with those beautiful trillions of cells that are working every minute, every second to keep us surviving and alive.
Thank you so much, Jean. Appreciate your perspective. We're pretty much out of time, everyone. It's about to be 2 p.m. I don't want to step on the toes of the next show, but I want to thank you again, Dr. Alim Muhammad. It's a pleasure to have you on the air. It's an honor to interview you for a second time. Please follow Dr. Muhammad on Telegram. He's a phenomenal purveyor of information. He's educating people continually, and it's really a commendable thing that he's doing in terms of being so active in information sharing and keeping people alert and on guard in a dangerous global environment. So thank you again, Dr. Muhammad. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
You're more than welcome, and thank you, and thank your listening audience very much.
Everyone have a great weekend, and stay in touch. Send me an email, jeremiahhosea.com. Please tune in to what are now daily and nightly spaces on our Stop the Shots page on X. Please join that community if you can. There's doctors tuning in and chiming in every night, and new information being divulged on a regular and continual basis. So thank you, Dr. Muhammad. Thank you, listeners. Everyone have a beautiful weekend. Thanks to Ryan and Dylan, my trusty engineers who do a great job here at PRN. And everyone take care. Thanks.